It's a Monday matinee in NASCAR. Um, the Dover race was postponed to today, and it was quite the mixed bag. So we're going to get into all that. Plus, there are a couple of assholes that I really need to roast today. So prepare yourselves. This is Final Analysis. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to today's edition of Final Analysis. A special Monday edition because the Cup race was postponed to today on Monday due to rain. The 11th race of the season, the Gander Outdoors RV 400 at the Dover International Speedway. My first thoughts on this race: it was quite the mixed bag, to say the least. First half of the race was pretty good, with the end of stage 2 being pretty awesome, and the second half of the race was bleh. So this was quite the mixed bag that we saw here today. But before we get into all that, there is a new segment that I'm going to be debuting this week that I really wish I would have done last week. But it's a little segment I like to call Dumbass of the Week. Initially, there was only going to be one guy this week on Dumbass of the Week, but as it turns out, a second person kind of came out of the woodwork, so to speak, that I really want to roast, and that's Dave Moody. Most of you know him as a host on Sirius XM Radio, or whatever the fuck it's called, and another thing, basically one of the NASCAR pundits. But lately, what he's also been known for is he's been a raging fucking cunt bag, and today was certainly another example of that, because of some of the tweets that he tweeted out that just makes him look like a raging idiot. So there's a guy on Twitter by the name of Dustin Albino who quoted Kyle Busch after he finished 10th in today's race. He says, "The package sucks, no fucking question about it. It's terrible. All I can do is bitch about it and fall on deaf ears, and we'll come back with the same thing in the fall." And that was basically Kyle Busch's reaction to the package at Dover. And then Dave Moody responds with, "In other words, I didn't win." That's it. No insights or, opinions of salient value about, Kyle Busch's quote. That was it. And in response to this tweet, one of the NASCAR tubers, we know as Real Radman, said, "The ignorance of this tweet really, really angers me. It's okay though. Positive vibes, Moody. Keep doing you." To which Moody replies, and this is where he basically turned into a raging cunt. He replies, "Allow me to spare you from witnessing my ignorance ever again." Basically blocking him on Twitter for the most part, which I find kind of hypocritical, considering that one of his tweets from before, he was responding to someone who said, "Actually, I guarantee people have told you how, but you probably blocked them when you didn't agree or didn't want to hear it." And then Dave Moody responds, "I don't block people for disagreeing. Not ever. I block for profanity and name calling. That's it." Yeah, okay. I actually enjoy hearing from people who disagree, as long as they can do so civilly and without name calling. Yeah, that's a crock of shit. Because then I replied, "Yet you blocked Real Radman for this tweet and it didn't have profanity or name calling. The ignorance of this tweet, the tweet, not Moody himself, really, really angers me. It's okay though. Positive vibes, Moody. Keep doing you. Any BS you want me to call you, any more BS you want me to call you out on?" And then here was his response to that. If he wants to debate, we can debate. If he wants to call me ignorant, he can do so on his own time. Pretty obvious this guy is pretty friggin' blind, because he wasn't calling you ignorant, you out of touch old fuck. My response was he said the tweet was ignorant, but whatever. I'm not going to continue arguing about it anyway when you're not going to listen. Because what's the point in arguing with a brick wall? An old decrepit piece of shit brick wall. Because that's what Dave Moody is at this point. In fact, I would say that about everybody in the NASCAR sports media. They're nothing but a bunch of raging, out of touch fucknuts who seemingly gets a cock up their ass all the time when there's even a slight hint of a dissenting opinion. And you know, this guy, I mean, the hypocrisy is beyond staggering. Because if he thinks ignorance is name calling, then he really is fucking ignorant. Out of touch old fuckhead. Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, him and the rest of the sports media are all the same. You know, a bunch of talking heads who do nothing, but they like to suck NASCAR's ass. You know, and this guy is one of them. You know, I honestly think that his brain is rotting upstairs, because, you know, some of the shit he says, you know, just makes me want to punch my fucking computer screen. So, Dave Moody, my response to you is this: fuck you. I really wish you would retire and get the fuck off of radio and stop covering NASCAR altogether, but because it's pretty clear to me that you just don't have it anymore, and you're nothing but an out of touch piece of shit, crusty ass fuckhead. And that's all I got to say about that. And then we go from the raging idiot to just plain stupid, because this guy goes by the name of Randy at S Fact Checker. Yeah, it's pretty clear that this guy doesn't live up to his name, considering the stupid ass tweets that he put out. This was the guy I was originally going to put on for this segment until Dave Moody decided to go all emo and grow a vagina. Fucking puss bag. But this guy is just straight up idiot. I mean, that's basically all you need to say, because NASCAR announced on Twitter that the race was postponed to Monday, and then Randy, for no reason whatsoever, just says that's why F1 is better. They race in the rain. Real drivers. Huh? Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? I mean, so it's pretty clear to me that this guy, you know, he's a Formula One dick rider, and he basically decided to take a shot at NASCAR for no fucking reason other than to be just a straight up asshole, because I think that's all this guy is a trolling asshole. But, you know, then someone by the name of Tony Ski replied, they're completely different setups. They could probably run a race in the rain at one of the road tracks, but to keep the grip and speed they need the slicks. If they got grooves in the rain, we just have 100-mile-per-hour races, and you can do that on the freeway. To which Randy responds, sorry, but that's my opinion. There's a thing called rain tires, so it slows it down. Big deal. The real drivers would come out ahead. Be a very interesting race. You know, and yes, it is an opinion, but here's the thing. Your opinions have to make fucking sense, and yours doesn't make a lick of sense. So it slows it down. Big deal. There's a lot more to it than that, dude. I mean, yeah, they have rain tires they can use, but here was my response. Okay, and I thought this was a pretty, you know, reasonable explanation. NASCAR does use rain tires, but only for the road courses, and here's why. They can't conceivably run rain tires on ovals, because the load a 3,400-pound car puts on the tires in 25-degree bank turns would tear groove tires to shreds in very short order, particularly the right sides, because they're the ones that are bearing the most load in the turns. And when you consider the fact that there's more downforce on these cars than there was last year, I think last year engineers were saying there was like 1,700 pounds of downforce, and now there's over 3,000. I mean, that's a lot more pressure that's being put on those right side tires. So imagine what would happen if, you know, you try to put, you know, groove tires, you know, and tried to, you know, race in 25-degree bankings. Those tires would not last very long at all. Not to mention the fact that because of the fact that the entire track is banked, if it was raining even at a decent clip, you know, there'd be streams running down the track. And even if you have grooved tires, as we saw in the very first rain race that NASCAR ever ran at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, if there's too much water, if there's like puddles on the track, even then the cars would basically lose all grip. So running an oval race in the rain is impossible. It doesn't matter what racing series it is. It could be F1, it could be IndyCar, it could be Australian supercars, it could be, you know, British touring cars, it could be NASCAR, it could be anything. IndyCar, it doesn't matter. And then this guy's response just really takes the cake, and it just gives me a headache. 3,400 pounds. So you don't drive your car when it rains? Lol. There's an old saying that's gone around on the internet: never go full retard. And that's basically what this guy did. So you don't drive your car when it rains. Here is a little news flash for you, you dumb fuck. You can't compare passenger cars to 3,400 pound specially made stock cars. Racing stock cars, I should say. You know, passenger cars as heavy as they are, you can't even compare the two. They're made differently, and passenger cars, even with everything put in, they only weigh somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. Now, one of the reasons why a NASCAR stock car weighs so much is that teams put tungsten inside these cars in order to meet the weight requirements. Not only that, but the horsepower in a passenger car compared to a NASCAR race car is night and day. You know, NASCAR stock cars, I mean, when they don't have the tapered spacer on them, they have 750 horsepower. Now try putting that amount of horsepower, you know, into a race car when a track is wet. You know, I mean, since you seem to be so confident, you know, about running rain tires on an oval when it rains, how about you try it yourself and see what the result is? Because the race would not be interesting. It would be impossible, because people would be wrecking all over the place, no matter how good of a driver they are. So get off your fucking high horse, you piece of dog shit, and stop being such a fucking idiot. See, this is the type of shit I see on social media all the time, and it drives me up a fucking wall. How stupid people can be. So yeah, people like this, I mean, like I said, his @ is @factchecker. Yeah, it's a load of bullshit, much like you are. And that's all I got to say. This has been Dumbass of the Week, and hopefully I won't have to do this segment very much this year, but I guess you could pretty much say I did it in back-to-back weeks, and I had 2 today. You know, some random ass motherfucker doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and then a guy who I had respect for, but that's all ended here today. So fuck you both. Alright, well now that I've gotten that out of my system, let's go ahead and get into the race review. The 2019 Gander Outdoors RV 400 at Dover. Like I said, it was rain postponed to today on Monday. Stages broke down like this. Stages 1 and 2, 120 laps. Stage 3, 160 laps. Okay. We had many cars go to the rear of the field for various reasons. Ross Chastain, Reed Sorensen for engine changes. Then you had Martin Truex Jr., Matt Tifft, Ryan Preece, and Alex Bowman for multiple inspection failures. And in fact, Matt Tifft had to serve a pass-through under green because of the inspection failures, which I had never really heard of before this season, so I don't know if they decided to implement that this season or what, but I know Harvick had to do something like that, I think at Bristol, and it's like, okay, I guess that's something that they've implemented as well to try to, you know, discourage, you know, shady shit, you know, which is fine. Chase Elliott continues his run of good, just run of good, because that's what it is. Of course, he won last week at Talladega, and he wins the pole, leads the field to the green. Elliott got a great start and led lap 1. Pretty much every leader on the restarts started on the outside because the outside is the preferred groove a lot of times. Chase gets out to a 2.2 second lead in just 10 laps, so his car was pretty dynamite early on. Alex Bowman begins rushing through the field, as well as Martin Truex Jr. Those are two names that you're going to be hearing about before the end of this review. Hamlin nudges Jimmy Johnson down the front stretch when Jimmy tries to basically slide over in front of him for position. Got Jimmy way out of shape, but Jimmy somehow saved it. Hamlin starts going backwards. His car was dog shit for most of this race. William Byron nearly loses it in turn 4 underneath some lap cars. I mean, his car was super loose for most of this race. Eventually they did get it tightened up though. And then we had our first caution on lap 41, which is competition caution, which is, you know, standard procedure when rain comes into play during the weekend. Everyone comes in for service, and Chase Elliott wins the race off pit road, so he leads on the restart. Larson pulls the crossover move on Logano for second, and I think Larson can thank his lucky stars this week, because the last 6 weeks have been absolutely horrendous for him, and he actually put together a damn good run today. Actually ended up in third, which is pretty good. Larson starts closing on Elliott for the lead on lap 74, and he actually had a run underneath in turn 3, but couldn't complete the pass. It really shouldn't have been a surprise that Larson was going to be good at this track, because, I mean, it's a dirt tracker's dream, basically, which is Larson's background. So the battle for the lead was basically between Elliott and Larson at this point. Everyone else is 3 seconds behind the pair. Harvick starts challenging Logano for third. Truex is up to 8th after starting in the back. And then Hamlin goes a lap down on lap 90, not due to damage or anything, he just had an ill-handling car. Then the second caution comes out on lap 104. Stenhouse lost the right front tire going into turn 1 and pounds the wall. I mean, it was pretty obvious it was a right front. So everyone comes in for service. This was right near the end of the stage too. Logano and Byron take just 2 tires, which was interesting, and then Elliott was the first off of 4 tires. Unfortunately for him, he had to start on the inside line, and that really screwed him up on this restart. So Logano leads on the restart. Elliott and Bowman managed to get by teammate William Byron a couple laps after the restart for 4th and 5th, because Elliott basically dropped back to 5th because he was starting 3rd on the inside lane, and the top any 2 cars in 3rd and 4th and 6th managed to get by him because the outside lane is pretty good. And then we had our third caution on lap 116. Quinn Hoff loses the right front tire as well and pounds the turn 2 wall. And I gotta say something. Quinn Hoff should not be in the Cup Series, period. I mean, this guy has absolutely nowhere near the experience needed to drive a Cup car at this point. I mean, I think he has 10 truck starts. He doesn't have any Xfinity starts, to my knowledge. Very few starts in ARCA and K&N, and it's just like, why is this guy in the Cup Series? Not to mention the fact that he was nothing but a moving chicane all race long. And it's just like, get this guy out of the Cup Series. He's not ready. Period. And he was nothing but a fucking moving chicane all day long. And it was really irritating to watch. So several cars come in for service. Logano leads on the restart, which was the last lap of the stage. So there was a one-lap shootout. And Joey Logano wins stage number 1. Stage 1 was, it was okay. Logano and Byron have to pit at this point to take 4 tires after taking just 2 before, and they basically lost all their track position. So at this point, Brad Keselowski leads the start of stage 2, and his race was actually pretty promising at this point. So Kez and Elliott split Quinn Hoff while fighting for the lead, and it was at this point that I really said, Hoff, get off the racetrack. Harvick at this point reported a possible loose wheel, but evidently it went away, or maybe he just had some rubber build up on his tires or something like that, because it eventually went away and he started closing on Kez and Elliott for the lead. So it was at this point, it's like, man, stage 2 is off to a pretty good start. And there was no cautions in stage 2, so stage 2 was definitely the best stage of this race. And I'm going to explain why here in a second. So Alex Bowman gets by Larson for 4th. Yes, you heard that correctly. Then passes Harvick for 3rd. Yes, you heard that correctly. Bowman was really good this race. It's like, holy shit. If it wasn't for the fact that Truex was also good, this would have been Bowman's first career win without question. But Bowman really did good today. I mean, he actually ended up finishing 2nd. And, I mean, back-to-back runner-up finishes for Bowman. One at a restrictor plate track, so you could kind of say, yeah, that was kind of due to teamwork with him and Chase, but he was legit good in this race. And it's like, why haven't we been seeing this all year long from him? You know, maybe that break before Talladega actually did Hendrick Motorsports some good, because they've been looking a lot better the last 2 weeks. I don't know if this is going to be a constant trend the rest of the year, but I mean, they are heading in the right direction. So anywho, the top 4 within 1 second of each other, which is pretty crazy at this point. Truex actually begins green flag pit stops on lap 180. Elliott and Bowman come in on the next lap, and Elliott actually gets back around Kez for position on the pit stop, so he would actually cycle back around to the lead. William Byron stays out trying to stretch the window out, which that's typical Chad Knaus. Bowman blows by Keselowski for 2nd like he was standing still, and then he went 3 wide with Ryan Newman as well while making that pass. That's like, damn, Bowman's got himself a good car. Truex gets around Larson for 5th. Harvick gets around Keselowski for 3rd, and Truex comes up to challenge for 4th and gets by him on the outside with 25 laps to go. And then Bowman pulls the crossover move on Chase Elliott for the lead, and we finally have our first pure lead change of the day. Comes on lap 224 with Alex Bowman. Yeah, can't really say enough about Alex Bowman. I mean, today was definitely, I think, his best performance in the Cup Series to date. So Elliott and Harvick start fighting hard for 2nd, with Truex closing in on the both of them. So this race, you know, for the stage win is just, I mean, this was awesome stuff for the most part. So Truex gets by Elliott for 3rd. Harvick gets to the back bumper of Bowman for the lead, but Truex is right there as well. And then Truex gets around Harvick for 2nd and starts going after Bowman. You know, the fun fact, this, like I said, these are the 2 guys who started at the rear of the field, and now they're the top 2 in the race. And then on the final lap of stage 2, Bowman, who was going for his first career stage win, takes it into turn 1 way too hard, trying to get that top line to work, and nearly brushes the wall, and Truex was able to sneak around on the inside to take the lead. Bowman fought back hard in turn 3, actually managed to get alongside, but there was a lap car there who decided to get in the fucking way, because of course. And Truex was able to edge Bowman for the stage win, which is our 2nd pure lead change of the day. on lap 2, number 40. So, stage 2 was awesome. It was definitely the best stage of this race by far. So everyone comes in for service, and Truex wins the race off pit road. So he leads the start of stage 3, and this is when the race starts going downhill, because once Truex got the lead, he pretty much couldn't be stopped. I mean, he eventually led 132 laps, which is most of stage 3, and he didn't take the lead until the finish of stage 2. So Elliott gets by Harvick for third. Kyle Busch actually brushes the wall off turn 2, does some damage to his car. Then we have our fourth and final caution of the day on lap 265, when Denny Hamlin loses the right rear tire. Tries to make it back around to the pit lane, but isn't able to because of all the traffic. Manages to get down to the apron, but spins it out in turn 2 after not being able to get down pit road. So an unusually off day for Denny Hamlin, for sure. Because I think there was a stat that said he had 8 top 10s in the first 10 races, which is actually pretty good, plus 2 wins, including the Daytona 500. So this year has been quite the turnaround for Denny Hamlin. I mean, he didn't have a good race today, but this year has been quite the turnaround when you compare 2018 to this year. So several drivers pit under this caution. So Truex leads on the restart. I think the top 8 decided to stay out. Logano bull rushed up to second, or not up to second, but up to 6th. But that was about as far as he could get. Harvick takes second from Bowman on the restart because Bowman had to restart on the inside, and Harvick was actually restarting 4th on the outside. And with 100 laps to go, Kyle Busch's top 10 streak to start the year is in serious jeopardy. He was running 14th, and he was trying to tie Morgan Shepherd for the most races to start the season that a driver's finished in the top 10. Morgan currently, well, before this race, he held the record with 11 consecutive top 10s to start the year. And Kyle had 10 at this point, and it was in serious jeopardy at this point. Keselowski actually, excuse me, began to fade in the late laps, which was a bit of a surprise considering how good he was in stage 2. Excuse me. Let me take a drink real quick. Excuse me. Larson kicks off green flag pit stops with 81 laps to go, which is basically halfway through the stage. Truex pits from the lead a lap later, so basically they just sliced it down the middle, which makes sense, which was right at the pit window anyway too. So Suarez and Jimmy Johnson battle for the lead as they stay out to stretch the window, and because they were on equal terms, because Jimmy took the lead when Truex pitted, and then Suarez was able to get around Jimmy Johnson. So I would consider that a clean pass since they stayed out and they were still equal. So third and final pure lead change of the day, and it was Daniel Suarez on lap 326. At one point, Suarez had the entire field a lap down with 62 laps to go. And I know his thought process was, please let there be a caution. Because even though everybody else, would get the wave around when he pits, he would have a lot fresher tires, and he wouldn't lose track position. He would still be the leader of the race, because then everybody would have to take the wave around after he pits. So even though Truex would have lined up second, he wouldn't have been able to pit, otherwise he wouldn't be able to take the wave around. So there was logic in Suarez staying out as long as he did, because he had the entire field a lap down at this point. So he basically had everybody else by the balls hoping for a caution flag, which never came. So Suarez had to pit with 54 laps to go. Not much you can do about that. Truex cycles back around with the lead, and that was basically the end of it. Nobody else could touch Truex at that point. He just sped away from everybody else. He had a 4.5 second lead with 44 to go, which was up to 6 seconds with 25 to go, which was up to eventually 8 seconds by the end of the race. And everybody else was double digits behind. And there was only I think there was only 11 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race. So Truex just completely dominated the second half of this race, after starting from the rear of the field, by the way. The battle at the bottom half of the top 10 was pretty good, though. And Suarez was actually closing in on Kyle Busch, who was actually 10th at this point, and was putting Kyle Busch's streak in jeopardy. But Kyle Busch would actually hold on and get that 10th spot and keep the streak alive. Harvick started closing in on Larson for third in closing laps, but wasn't able to catch up with them. And Martin Truex Jr. wins the Gander Outdoors RV 400 by 8 seconds. And it's the second time that he's won on a Monday at Dover. The first time he did it was his first career win, which unfortunately also came the same day that Bill France Jr. passed. So, which kind of overshadowed that, whole deal. But this was his third win at Dover. Of course, Dover is considered one of his home racetracks, so I'm pretty sure that was a big deal for him. And Kyle Busch keeps his top 10 streak intact with a 10th place finish. So, overall, this was definitely a mixed bag type of race. First half of this race was pretty good, and then the second half just really took a dive. Although some of the pit strategy that happened in the second half of the race was pretty interesting. Of course, Suarez, basically having everybody by the short hairs, but it eventually didn't pan out. And once Suarez pitted, Truex basically had the hammer lock on, so it's just the way it goes sometimes. Overall, this race wasn't as terrible as we've seen Dover have in the past. First stage was okay, and then the second stage was really good, and then the third stage just kind of fell off. So, I would say my final rating for the Gander Outdoors RV 400. And also since Truex won, and I kind of like Truex, I'll give this one a 5 out of 10. It was alright. Wasn't spectacular overall, although I wish the whole race was like that second stage. That was pretty damn good racing. But overall, it was alright. The third stage, it really dropped off, but, that's just the way it goes. But that's going to do it for this race. Next up, we have a double header once again with the IndyCar Series and the Cup Series, both on a Saturday this time, with IndyCar running on the Indianapolis road course, which I'll be honest, I don't have very much faith in that race being any good, because based on what we've seen so far this year, and based on the IndyCar road course races track history, track record, whatever you want to call it, I don't have very much faith in the IndyCar race being any good. And then we have Kansas for the Cup Series, which last year was a total shit fest. But we'll see what happens this time with this new aero package. Because Vegas and Atlanta were good. Texas was alright. So we'll see what happens with Kansas and see how that goes. Hopefully it'll be good. And continue this pretty solid run that NASCAR's got ongoing right now. Because I'm going to be completely honest here. NASCAR this year has been quite the uptick in terms of, the quality of the races. Because at this point last year, it was a total shit fest. So it's nice to see them turn it around. I think it might have something to do with the package a little bit. Maybe not today, but on the mile-and-a-half tracks, definitely. So we're looking forward to Saturday night. So that'll do it for this edition of Final Analysis. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. Have a good one.